Hello and welcome to the New Thought Men's Podcast, where we explore what it is to be a healthy spiritual man today. I'm Eamon. It's great to have you with us. So, welcome to the New Thought Men's Podcast. I am Eamon. I am here with Dr. Reverend Jesse Jennings. Thank you, Jesse, so much. It's great to see you. Great to be with you. Before we get into our topic of the spiritual self, let me just share a little bit about you with those who may not know you. So, Reverend Dr. Jesse Jennings is now in his 39th year of ministry. Yes, beautiful. Leading the Creative Life Spiritual Center, serving the greater Houston area. He began writing for Science of Mind magazine in 1989, and 2 years later launched a column that has run in every issue since. Epic. Now a contributing editor. He curates the October daily guides by Ernest Holmes and authors, frequent feature articles. He's created the book, The Essential Ernest Holmes, produced in 2002. And then the CSL course that's drawn from it, wrote the foreword to the complete edition of the Science of Mind textbook. And in 2021, had his collection, More Than We Seem, published by Spiritual Living Press. In addition to his local ministry and writing, he teaches classes, leads book studies, and conducts other events for Ernest Holmes Institute and the CSL Global Online Community. Jesse, where do you find the time, my friend?
I pull it out of thin air, Eamon.
That's it. If we're beyond time and beyond space, exactly, then it's all good.
Exactly.
I'd love to start our conversation based on just what you shared with your speaking for the summit, with your sharing for the summit. So, and that was. I love this, and I had to laugh. I was a disappointment to the Creator in my young life, and this is when you were very young, but I was raised Catholic, so I feel that too, in my bones on some level of that, that I was kicked out of the spiritual realm, like I didn't belong quite there. So here you go. We're just going to stick you on planet Earth, see how you do. And maybe you can redeem yourself, but I don't know, if not, there's some extreme pain involved if you don't, fiery burning hell. So I just, now in my life, of course, then, and it took me a long time to overcome that and to really heal that experience of being a young person and being exposed to, this religious perspective that I am separate from spirit, that I am not a part of this creation. And it was so refreshing in my early 20s when I got out of my house of origin and started exploring spirituality on my own to find these things out and to really see that I am a part of this creation. I'm not separate from it. This isn't punishment being here on earth. I haven't been a bad kid and I should suffer eternally for it. So it was a real revelation to rise from those beginnings into this new thought, this Science of Mind philosophy, and to see that this, like you said, the spiritual self is the essential self, is the eternal self, is the infinite expressing through me. Share a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, if the powers that be put across the idea that Earth is a prison planet and very few escape out of here, and narrow is the way and straight is the gate, and all the rest of that, one of the things they don't have to do is fix anything up here. They don't have to improve anybody's quality of life. There doesn't have to be social justice. There doesn't, because this is just a dress rehearsal for whatever comes later. That probably is the motivation behind that way of thinking in the Western world. And it's largely, not entirely, but it's largely a Western world thing, this idea. I'm reminded of a guy named Stuart Grayson, who was a colleague of ours, who's since passed on. He was a friend of mine. He was one of my teachers back in the day, and he had been a college student having these kinds of existential questions and having been raised in that kind of background that you describe of the separation from our source. And he was at wit's end, and he was walking down a city street one day and turned into a doorway. Could have been any kind of shop he went in. Turned out it was the Vedanta Society. And he started reading some of their material, and it was about the ubiquity of the divine. It was Advaita Vedanta, and it had every bush is aflame with God, this kind of thing, and it put in the beautiful metaphorical poetic language of the East. And he started taking classes there. He got more and more interested, and one day he asked the proprietors of the place, he said, "Why isn't this in the West? Why isn't this in here in this?" And they said it is. Down on 48th Street, there's a place called First Church of Religious Science. You should go see them. And that was the beginning. And he did. And he eventually became a minister in this teaching. But so much of Western, without going completely off on Western religion, because I don't mean to judge or anybody else's path. I'm just really talking about from where I came from, which is where you came from too. Western religion tends to pathologize the human condition. If there's not something wrong with us personally, if we haven't done anything wrong, well, our ancestors did. You go far enough back to the first couple and so on. And that's the problem. And so everything is about repair and reform, and everyone has their own rules. So it's a complete 180 when you come into New Thought and you hear nothing's ever been wrong. And we bring our lists to it, and we say, but you don't know. I can't tell you how often I've heard this from people over the years. You're telling me that I'm beloved of God, but you don't know my story. And everybody has their guilt, and everybody has a past, Yeah. And I say, well, I might judge you. Society might judge you. But spirit never has. It wouldn't know how. It would fly apart at the seams if it even tried to, because it would be judging its own creation. And in order to do that, it would have to step outside of itself. And if there's one thing the divine nature cannot do, it is stop being the divine nature for even a heartbeat.
It reminds me of this quote, "We are not here to escape the world, but to realize its spiritual nature." That's Aurobindo, Eastern philosopher, but who is very aligned to this New Thought philosophy that we have. And I think hearing that, I forget when it was, probably in practitioner, when I was in practitioner training, and it just did a number on me. It upended that perspective of that. No, and even the Eastern spiritual philosophies, I'd gone to ashrams and stuff like that. And it's like, no, we're not here to escape it, ohm it away. This is Maya illusion. It's not the other way with Catholicism and what I had grown up with, but we're here to be here, and we are that here now. And it just totally blew my mind. It was like a complete paradox of anything that I had heard before. And so it helped me move into that deeper spiritual nature. And
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know who read Aurobindo right after The Life Divine was published in 1920s, Ernest Holmes. He loved Aurobindo. He read Aurobindo his whole life. In fact, I think you have to check with Kathy Mastroianni at the archives about this, but I think that the Life Divine was one of the few books that he physically kept with him his whole life, because he was notorious for dumping his library. He didn't carry around cases of books like I do, because he wanted others to have it. So he'd read stuff, and he had this like eidetic memory or something. He'd pass stuff on to other people, but Aurobindo he kept around. Yeah, that's beautiful. It's a beautiful sentiment. Yeah. You know, I think of Rumi. I think of some of the Sufi poets and others where they talk about like eating the pomegranate and feeling the juice run down your arm, and that is the divine ecstasy. That right there. And people are like, but that's so simple. That's so, well, visceral. And I thought it was going to be, you know, there'd be angels involved, trumpets and golden beams of light and all. And you're telling me eat a pomegranate. It's all that. Yeah, it's all that.
I loved what you were talking about. In that we are this divine nature. I am representing the divine nature, and we get absorbed in this doing. We get absorbed in these desires, these agendas, these attires, these biases, these attitudes, and we get stuck in this smallness. We get stuck in this humanness. And all its many distractions. And instead of that, embracing that realization of that I am here, I am an outlet of this and I need to think of it this way. For me, because of my upbringing, I now think of it in abstract, this God existence or this spiritual existence in abstract terms, in order to retrain myself to understand it better. And so I have to put it out there as like, I am this creative life force energy of the cosmos, specifically just making it that abstract. So my mind can't grab onto this thing and go, oh yes, you're right. This is the divine. This is God. This is what it is. And it's helped me immensely to be able to expand my idea and not to allow my mind to narrow what is this thing of the divine or our divine nature, but to actually expand it. And it's just been so helpful to think in terms like that, to really get that I am a creative outlet of that infinite experience that is the cosmos, that created multiverses, that creates the universe, that creates galaxies and, planetary systems and this planet Earth and 8 billion, all 8 billion of us.
Another one of our late colleagues, Andy Carricker, had a saying that I've glommed onto. He said that the infinite seeks expression of itself through us unrestrictedly. We are the experience that spirit is having of itself by means of us in the here and now. We are the experience that spirit is having of itself by means of us in the here and now. And I not only do I love that, not only do I love the architecture of that statement, but it feels precise. It feels right on. It's having an experience of itself. It's not having an experience of my personality as a separate and distinct thing, or my activities or my successes, my wins and losses. That's not it. It's having an experience of itself. And consequently, it doesn't judge. It's not, again, capable of judging the value of the experience that it's having. It just knows that it is, which is another way of saying it just knows the I am. It is in the moment. Now, I, as the particularized individual person, have the ability to judge and assign value and get trapped in that assignment until I remember whose life I am expressing. And that's a great paradox that comes up. And I know it used to be in practitioner training where they brought up inductive and deductive reasoning, and everybody was like, oh God. But it's a philosophical construct, but it's about, we have the ability as these particularized beings to doubt our own identity in spirit. Whereas spirit just, when we come home to God, as they say, spirit just takes us as we are. And one more thing I'd like to bring up about that is sometimes what we're a little light on in New Thought in the teaching is the mystery, is the great mystery, because we become, you and I as ministers, Eamon, become like the answer grape. Bob Newhart used to do TV commercials for Mogan David wine, and he was the answer grape. He wore a big grape costume, and he'd tell you everything you need to know about how wine is made. And you and I become that sometimes in our teaching and our ministry. People want to know, well, what does God think about this? What does God, and we've got answers at the ready. Well, God's not that. God's this over here, and blah, blah, blah. And what we always have to remember is the back of all of that is the absolute unknowable. That it's just bigger than our ability. If we could describe it, it wouldn't be that.
Yeah.
It's the Tao, So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Another way for me to blow my mind is, that we are beyond time and we are beyond space. We are so much greater than this. To really to help take myself out of this little container that says I am this and look like this and feel like this and act like this, to really go beyond that time and space, to be the beingness that we truly are, and to experience that. I have to do that on a regular basis. Otherwise, I get too stuck in the doingness. Like I got it, like you said, the stuff right outside the door, like my to-do list and my gym shoes and my, all the stuff that I have to, I have to take care of, that piles of paperwork and all of that stuff. And it's too easy to get wrapped up in that. And to be able to take those moments and to feel into that, I am a part of this cosmos, this everything that is everything. And I am, there is nothing that needs to be done. There is nothing that needs to be achieved in this moment. Simply being in that and resting in that. And I think the more that, and I know not as long as you, but I've been doing this for a bit of time. I need that reminder. I need that reminder almost daily, that spiritual practice daily to say, hey, dude, remember, do a prayer, chant an om, sit in silence, bang a drum, do a little yoga, whatever it is, but do something to remind myself that I am this infinite beingness instead of this finite human thing. And yet paradoxically, I am this finite human beingness with human form and human, desires, doings, agendas, opinions, attitudes, and biases as well.
All of which is perfect. It puts me in mind of something Wayne Dyer said one time about everything in the world is perfect, including your desire to change it. So sometimes what we want to do is now our spiritual practice is one more thing to do, along with workout, eat better, check your blood pressure regularly, go get your teeth cleaned. Now it's one more thing. But what it does is it provides a context for everything else.
Yeah.
The culture will tell you, well, you need to take care of your body. But the greatest motivation of taking care of your body is to realize your body's pure spirit. It's the temple in which you live in this journey, rather than just what you read in Men's Health or, something like this. That's all good. That's good information, but it doesn't motivate you the way a spiritual practice will. We all know we ought to forgive our enemies and bless those who persecute us, assuming we have any. Everybody knows that from pretty much the ground up. But the motivation for doing that is to realize there's just one life. And whatever I'm thinking about you is rebounding on me. Every judgment I hold is coming, like Emma Hopkins said. I walk down the streets of the city and I see this vast herd of plain looking people coming at me. Those are my judgments coming back to roost, And so that's what this spiritual practice thing that we're so adamant about. And I'm sure all of your speakers in this summit have touched on that or are touching on that in one way or another. I'm reading Josh Reeves this month, having written the daily guides for the magazine. He's all over that about spiritual practice. Why? Because it shines a light like nothing else can. Yeah. So, and it's fun too. That's the thing. Once you start doing it, you become like a gym rat. It's like, hey, I love the feeling, the endorphins and all this. You become you get so into it that you can't help but do it.
Ironically, Jesse, we actually do have Josh Reeves speaking on spiritual practices.
Perfect.
The summit.
that is absolutely perfect. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's it. And we're all just finding our way home to our essence.
Exactly.
We're all just finding that place within ourselves, that peace and love and joy, connection, true connection and beingness is. And I think I look out in the world sometimes and I see how challenged people are. And not that I'm separate from that. I'm challenged by the world too, politics and society and, neighbors and, just the driving down the street, just these things that the human moments of that we have in this world, just fleeting, like, just like that. But sometimes get so wrapped up in it, and to be able to take that breath and just say, yeah, this is not me. I am infinite. I am the divine. I'm an expression. And to bring that, to realize that in that moment and to bring that energy into it is definitely one of my practices, for sure.
Yeah.
To just take that breath.
Yeah. When we do that, all of the benefits we've already discussed come true for us. Greater inner peace, greater sense of self, greater sense of purpose and direction and all. But what also comes is a greater knowingness of how to serve others, how to serve the world, how to be a compassionate presence in the world. What it is people need, the ability to listen rather than come at the world. The old expression, to one who's good with hammers, every problem is a nail. Yeah. We come at the world sometimes like, well, I have certain abilities here. And so everything has to kind of bend to my will based on that, rather than listening what the other wants and needs. And when we listen, that's when we learn, and that's when we grow and really become a beneficial presence. Because all this New Thought stuff is about making us better citizens and better people, better inhabitants of the earth, not just for private gain. And in fact, Ernest Holmes, this is not widely known, but I can cite passage and chapter and verse if I have to. He said there is no private good. There is no private good. It's all collective. And that's from this master teacher of manifestation. There's no private good. Whoa. Yeah. Okay. So it's all just the passing parade through our experience of comings and goings and relations and the smile and the hug that you exchange and when your eyes meet with somebody else, and there's just this nod. One quick thing. I thought this was funny. Sure. I just read this the other day. It said, a guy's writing this and he's 6'5", and he says, among we who are 6'5", there's a certain brotherhood, because we'll be like on a subway or something, and there are all these other people who are, smaller than we are, but our heads are up here, like giraffe, like, over them, and we meet, and our eyes meet, and we nod. We just nod in affirmation of each other, and I thought, well, how cool that is. Well, we can all do that. We can all just look at each other, and we got something like a song by Todd Rundgren. We've got something between us, and it feels all right. We've got something. You nod at the passing parade. Yes, it's all right, and people will pick that up. We pick that up and carry it with us. When a great kindness was done to us, it was no more than just a simple affirmation of who we are. At some point, it meant the world.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I guess that is the namaste attitude. I see the divine in you, and you see the divine in me. So beautiful. Oh, Jesse, I could talk metaphysics with you all day long, my friend.
Let's do it, man. I'm here. It's what I do.
We'll do this many more times, I hope. But I want to end with a question that I've been asking the other men that have been participating in this summit and in these videos, is what does healthy masculinity look like in the 21st century?
I have been thinking about that question since you first asked me to be a part of this event, knowing that it was aimed at men, and it was, coming from that position. Healthy masculinity in the 21st century is, first of all, for us to let go of much of our self-consciousness about being men and the roles that men are expected to play. To be, in a sense, non-gendered for a while inside ourselves, that we are just beings of light, that we are just the experience the Spirit is having by means of us. And at the same time, we are men, but the ego-driven aspect of masculinity, the power that has been invested in masculinity, the way the patriarchal system has taken shape over the centuries, it's time for that to go. It's past time for that to be dismantled, and it's not going to be dismantled by women. It's not going to be dismantled by some exterior force coming in here and slapping us all around and making it all different. It's going to be dismantled by we ourselves, who happen to be men, deciding to cede power. Because the last thing, I heard this line somewhere, the last thing power wants to do is cede itself. CEDE. I mean, give it away. Give away power. The last thing you want to do when you have power is give away power. But the power that we're giving back is not real power. It's force. It's not real power. It's manipulation. It's coercion. It's intimidation. It's unhealthy stuff. That's what we're letting go of and letting drop to the floor, so that we can stand in our authenticity as beings of spirit, and then proudly live as men, as a subset of that being of spirit, and then live as a subset of being men, as perhaps we're fathers, perhaps we're husbands, and in the gatherings of men doing different manly sorts of things, because we enjoy being together, because we have a shared set of experiences. This is why men hang out with men. I belong to a fraternal organization of men. I enjoy being with these guys. We're not superior to non-men. We get together because we have something between us, and only we understand it the way that we do. And the same is true of every kind of subset of humankind. So it's basically to give some of that power back, let go of the ego, let go of the attachments. You yourself put it in the material, some of the material that you sent me for this, where you talked about letting go of the competition model. I forget in what context, but that's beautiful right there. We don't need to compete so ferociously for everything. It's not about the almighty dollar. It's about being creative. It's about being expressive. It's about, and right now, I tend to give you and everyone else who asks much longer answers than they expect, But right now, I'm rereading Walden by Thoreau. I'm doing a series of talks on Thoreau, and I don't know this guy inside and out. I don't know his whole story. I only know what he wrote, but he seems to me like a healthy man. He seems to me like somebody who had it going on. He says, I got away from my neighbors, not so I could come to understand my neighbors better, but so I could come to understand myself. And he goes and lives for 2 years in a tiny little cabin out in the woods. You know, it's beautiful stuff. Came home to himself. This is what we can do. Is come home to ourselves, come home to the beauty of who we are, and just be that without pose, without posture, without explanation, without justification. Just be fully alive and in love with life. Yeah, and we're doing it. And thanks to you, Eamon, and thanks to this event that you have created. This was your vision. And I remember when you talked about this in ministry school, 3-4 years ago, right at the start of the pandemic. You know, you talked about wanting to create something like this. This is a beautiful healing venue that you have established here.
Thank you, Jesse.
Certainly.
And you, you know, just honoring you, an elder in this community, an elder in this wisdom. And I mean that with great reverence and respect. Like, there aren't many people that I would say are true elders, and you are one of them. And you have shown up for years and years and been that, standing in that goodness, standing in that wholeness, standing as best as you can in that modeling of what this looks like. And I see it. I appreciate it. It's been my honor to know you for all these many years. And I look forward to much, much more with you. So thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much, brother. Now, be sure everything nice about me you just said, be sure and tell that to the nuns from way back when, would you?
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Wonderful to have you here today, Jesse, and so blessings. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.
I hope you enjoyed this interview from the New Thought Men's podcast. For instant access to all podcast interviews, talks from our summit, men's groups, and so much more, join us at newthoughtmens.community. Thanks so much for being with us today. There's more to come, so stay tuned in.